In this video, Danz is going to be showing you his Batman comic books. Cause I'm BatDanz.
Hey guys, what is going on at Danz Newz here? As you can see, as you saw from the beginning, I actually had this sitting right there as BatDanz reading. This is my desk. This is my desk that usually has my computer monitor and stuff like that, and it actually says Danz desk right there. So that's pretty, yeah, this thing's scratched to hell. But anyway, in this video I'm going to show you guys my comic books. I don't have a million Batman comic books. I actually usually just collect bundles of like 12-issue series or whatever. And but yeah, so if you know of any good Batman comics, like a collection of them, I usually don't buy them individually. I don't keep up with the newest issues or even storylines. So I'm not super proficient as far as Batman goes with comics, but I love reading good Batman comic books. So if you know of any that I don't have after you watch me show you all of them, you could probably recommend some in the comments. So the first one we got here is Batman Year One. Sorry if the lighting's terrible. I'm actually starting to lose light outside. But yeah, Batman Year One, written by Frank Miller. It's a take on Batman's origin story. It's very similar to Batman Begins. If you've seen Batman Begins, I mean, not super similar, but there are a lot of similar themes in the sense that it's Batman starting off. First of all, I love that image. Kind of violent, kind of brutal, but it's a good setup too. I mean, that's the first thing in the comic book is Bruce laying next to his dead parents. But it at first follows Gordon a lot through it, and a kind of Gregory Peck-esque looking, or more Cary Grant looking Bruce Wayne. So, Jim Gordon's arriving in town, and then Bruce Wayne is also coming back after being gone for so long. It also involves Catwoman, which I'm not a huge Catwoman fan, but she's done pretty well in this. So yeah, Batman Year One, I recommend it. All of these, pretty much, that I'm about to show you, I recommend, unless they specifically say I don't recommend it. Very good. Very good. Alrighty, next is the very first Absolute Edition. Oh, it's upside down. Very first Absolute Edition. Actually, it's backwards, too. Very first Absolute Edition of a comic book I've ever bought. I think it was the first Batman comic book I've ever bought, actually. Well, not... Okay, I had bought single-issue comic books from the grocery store every once in a while. But this was the first, like, collected series of Batman things I bought. Oh, there's crap on it. Anyway, if you can't see, I can't tell if you can see it or not. It says Hush across the top. But yeah, Batman Hush, the absolute version. If you don't know what an absolute version of a comic book is, it's like a largely printed version. It's apparently, from what I've read, pretty much the full size of the comic books, the way they are originally done, and then they're scaled down for individual issues. So this is a bigger version of the full size version of the comic books. So yeah, Batman Hush, this is actually really cool. Just kind of almost of a whodunit story. It's a story arc that has kind of a reveal towards the end almost. Pretty much this mysterious bad guy who's shown up calls himself Hush, or he's called Hush. I can't remember. He's a guy who wears like this gray trench coat and a bandage over his head, so it's not quite you're not quite sure who it is. But there's my favorite part throughout this entire comic book is Batman and Superman have a fight because Superman's been kind of taken over by Poison Ivy, which it's interesting to see Batman bad guys cross over into a Superman kind of story. But it's not a Superman story, but Superman's universe, although it's all the same universe. Blah blah blah. Batman, Batman and Superman. It's not exactly the most fair fight, but Batman ends up winning, funnily enough, by chucking Lois Lane off the roof of a building. So yeah, there's well, I guess Catwoman does it. Catwoman takes Lois Lane and chucks her off the roof of a building, and Superman snaps out of it, saves Lois. blah blah blah. So it's really funny. But yeah, I highly recommend this. This was the first one I read, and it was very I very much like the style. It's very detailed. It's very colorful, and the specific copy that I have, it's nice. The pages are glossy, and it's huge. There's Killer Croc. Killer Croc. That's not what he sounds like, but yeah. So really, really good stuff. Good times. There's Batman kicking in the air. It's a good read, and yeah. Another classic, as it were. I don't know. This is an older story. I want to say it was made in the 80s, done in the 80s. Batman, The Killing Joke. It's a good Joker story. It's the one where Barbara Gordon actually gets paralyzed by the Joker. He shoots her. And this is kind of a really dark story. He shoots Barbara Gordon kind of brutally, and then strips her naked and takes pictures, and has Gordon go through this crazy carnival ride and tries to drive him crazy. And I mentioned this briefly in my Batman Arkham Asylum playthrough, but yeah, it's really it's a good origin actually for the Joker. It has the Joker's origin, as well as how Barbara Gordon got paralyzed. So it's kind of almost like The Dark Knight, where it's the Joker trying to prove that anybody can be driven insane. It's a really good classic Batman story, and I highly recommend it. And yeah, I have the special edition. It was actually recolored by Brian Bolland, who originally colored it back in the day. All right, and here's probably my favorite of all the ones that I own. It's Absolute Batman, The Long Halloween. Very, very cool story. Oh, whoops. Hit the tripod. The Dark Knight had a lot of nods to this particular comic. I really love the art style of Loeb and Sale's comics. I keep hitting the damn tripod. Yeah, like I was saying, this has a lot of nods to let me see if I can find it, to The Dark Knight. There's even a scene where Batman and Harvey Dent and what's his name, Gordon, are talking on the roof of Gotham Police Department. And yeah, it's really interesting because it's the first time Harvey Dent is meeting Batman, and then at the end, Harvey Dent is surprised that he disappeared, and then Gordon's like, he does that. So that's straight out of the Dark Knight. Dark Knight lifted that from this. Steelers. But yeah, this follows a killer who's killing in accordance with the holidays of the year, and starting with Halloween to the next Halloween. And yeah, it's really interesting. I love whodunits. I like mysteries revealed at the end of an arc. So, but this also chronicles the origin of Two-Face, and yeah, so it's really interesting. There's the Joker. I think one of the reasons I like this arc is it really, all 12 issues in one way or another highlight a lot of the big interesting Batman villains, and it's probably one of the main reasons why I like it. Everybody kind of gets a moment to shine, and it's just masterfully written, and it's really it just, the art style is very interesting, and it keeps you interested throughout, and it has a very good ending. So yeah, Batman, The Long Halloween, very, very cool. And then there's Dark Victory, which is actually the sequel to, I didn't mean to laugh like that, but is the sequel to The Long Halloween, almost. It takes place almost immediately after the events of The Long Halloween. And yeah, I haven't finished this yet, but it just hasn't really captured my attention as much as Long Halloween did. I don't know why I haven't finished it yet. I started to read it. It's just, it hasn't kept me interested throughout. And so, yeah, it's all right from what I've read so far, but it didn't quite, I mean, I blew through Batman: The Long Halloween. It was just, it kept my interest the entire time. So it's not that this is bad. It's the same art style. It's the same storytellers from, you know, Batman: The Long Halloween, but it's not as interesting to me. It was actually almost kind of boring from what I read. It didn't spark my interest as much as The Long Halloween did. But yeah, and in the same series as this Dark Victory, it shows on the back they have Long Halloween, Haunted Night, and then Dark Victory. And same thing with this, they have Long Halloween, Dark Victory. This is actually almost feels like it's a different kind of paper. It is a different kind of paper. That's weird that it's part of that series, but different kind of paper. But yeah. The Haunted Night, I haven't read this yet. This is one of the ones that I bought. I think I bought these both at the same time. And I never got around to reading Haunted Night. I started reading a little bit of it, but because yeah, it starts off with the Scarecrow. I haven't read it, so I can't really give you an opinion on it. But yeah, I have this one, so it's part of my collection. Let me know if it's good, even if I should read it. I will eventually, just not right now. Okay, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here, the final two, and I've almost saved the two that I like least for the last. Yeah, I have Batman R.I.P. I'm not a big fan of this one. I bought it because, you know, it's kind of a lucrative-looking, well, interesting-looking cover. It's Batman R.I.P. Oh, Batman's gonna die or something? I don't know, because I haven't finished it. I've got about halfway through this, and you know, I kind of like the art style. It's very clean, it's very colorful, but the storyline's just kind of strange. There's a lot of interesting imagery in here, but yeah, there's that one point Batman's been drugged with like heroin or meth or something, and he has these crazy hallucinations where he has, you know, like a purple costume and purple, red, and yellow costume. Yeah, I'm not digging that so much. Yeah, this is as far as I got. And he's spitting out blood at that point. But yeah, I got about halfway through, or maybe yeah, a little less than halfway through, and there's like a little Batman on his shoulder yelling at him. It's interesting, but it's too weird for me. I mean, I like weird, but I don't like this kind of weird. It's weird. He's cutting into his tooth right there. But yeah, Batman R.I.P. I don't know if I can recommend this because I haven't finished it. Maybe it's quite possibly the greatest thing I've ever read. I just haven't finished it. We're getting down to the ones that I haven't finished, because it's not that I don't like reading them. It's just that the story has to catch my attention at some point. I don't like to have to read halfway through and still not be sold on the story. So yeah, Batman R.I.P. Not quite sure. I'm not a huge fan of this one, but yeah. And, you know, we started off with Frank Miller's story, and we're going to end with a couple Frank Miller stories. It's a bit more of a violent Batman. I mean, it's Frank Miller, so it's going to be a bit more of a violent Batman. This is a combination of The Dark Knight Returns and The Dark Knight Strikes Again. I haven't read The Dark Knight Strikes Again. Actually, I started to read it, and I wasn't digging it at all. But The Dark Knight Returns, it's really interesting because I really liked the beginning of The Dark Knight Returns. Frank Miller does have an interesting style, and I like it. And he's kind of compelling. There's a lot of dialogue in the beginning, and then there's plenty of frames where it's just like frame of actions. There's a lot to look at. There's a lot going on, and then you have like this big, huge reveal of Batman right here. But yeah, there's a lot going on. It maintains a level of interest, but the thing about Frank Miller is he's a little weird. And again, like I said before, I'm not a huge fan of weirder things, especially Batman. I mean, Batman, he has some weird villains, but I'm not a big fan of the mutants or whatever that are in this story arc here. It had my attention very early on, but once you got to him, Batman, and the mutants fighting, I wasn't into it anymore, and then it got really weird. But it's interesting in the sense that Batman's been, you know, away for I think 30 years. He's pretty much been out of the spotlight, and Bruce has given up being Batman, and then, you know, he decides to come back because Gotham has gotten terrible. The mutants have taken over. And it's all sparked by Harvey Dent being released after I think he's had cosmetic surgery to fix his disfigured face, and he's being released because he's been rehabilitated, and Batman doesn't necessarily believe that. And so yeah, that's the start of the story, but it just, yeah, it got a little weird. But as far as The Dark Knight Strikes Again, it's completely different from The Dark Knight Returns. Like it's weird. I don't like the style. It's a little too cartoony and washed and weird. Yeah, it's just a little too psychedelic for me. Yeah, it's weird. Like I can't describe it any other way. I'm not a big fan of the style of it, and yeah, so that's that. So those are all my comic books. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm sure I said interesting a whole lot. Just let me know what comic books you think I should take a look at as far as Batman is concerned. I'll do a video eventually showing you the rest of my comic books because all the other comic books I have are pretty much ones I bought knowing they would be good. So yeah, those are all my Batman comic books. Check out the other BatDanz Week videos if you haven't. Okay, bye.